Today, we're going to reverse engineer exactly what it takes to consistently hit four-figure income on market days. And we're going to learn why most farmers are sabotaging their own success. Let's get into it today on Modern Grower. Thanks for watching. I'm Diego, D-I-E-G-O. For the past 10 years, I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of farmers through my podcast, and now I'm sharing what I've learned on this channel to help make your farm or your future farm more profitable. Let's get into it here. Here's the brutal truth. Most farmers make less than a minimum wage, and we're going to dissect what it's going to take to maybe change that. Because I see a lot of the YouTube comments, I talk to a lot of farmers through podcasts, on phone calls, and there's this general thought that, is market gardening profitable? And my answer to that is yes, market gardening itself is profitable, but that doesn't mean that every farm that is a market farm is profitable. The bottom line is, to be a successful business, you need to have sales. You need to be able to repeat those sales. And you need to have the production to fulfill those sales. That's what it comes down to. You cannot just be a good grower. You have to be a good grower who's also a good seller. So let's take a look at a $1,000 market day. And this is the math that nobody wants to do. This is scenario one. And we're going to call this a premium market. And we're going to assume that every transaction at the market, on average, is $25. Probably pretty reasonable. This is all gross, okay? We're not talking profits here, gross. If you want to take home $1,000 from a market at $25 average transaction, you need to do 40 sales or service 40 customers. Does that mean 40 people stop at your booth? No. My daughter has a farmer's market booth. She doesn't sell vegetables. She sells crafts. And we've learned that it takes a lot of people to come by your booth to get somebody to actually stop. We'll assume that a conversion rate at a farmer's market booth is 40%. 40% of the people stop, actually buy. This means if you need 40 customers, you actually need 100 people to stop at your booth. And if 100 people are stopping at your booth, how many need to walk by? Probably at least 1,000, maybe even 2,000. This is important because if your market can't generate this type of traffic, then this is all for naught. It's not the business model failing you. It's your chosen market stream that's failing you. It's the farmer's market that you chose that's failing you. Now let's look at scenario two, a lower average sale price of $15. That means you're going to need 67 customers making a $15 purchase to get that $1,000. If we do the same 40% conversion rate, 167 people stop. That's one person every 2 minutes for 6 hours straight is another way to look at it. If you're having 167 people stop and buy, you're talking thousands of people that need to walk by. Size matters, not just in the bedroom, but also at the market. The bigger the transaction, the less people you need. Run some simple math. If this many people walk by my booth, if 1 out of 10 of those stop, and then of the people that stop, if 4 out of 10 of those buy, and the average transaction is X, you pick a number, how much money can you make? Your market might just be too small. That's not market farming failing you. That's your market failing you. That's you failing yourself for choosing the wrong market stream. So size absolutely matters. If we start looking at that $1,000 transaction in terms of actual produce that you could grow, let's take a look at that. So with a $15 average transaction, you're going to need 67 transactions. Your typical basket might look something like this. 1 head of lettuce, $4. 1 bunch of herbs, $3. 1 bunch of carrots, $5. A small salad mix, $3. I think that pricing's conservative. So don't say, oh, the pricing's so high. It's so high. It's not. It's very conservative. If you do this, then you're going to need a lot of volume and a lot of variety to move this amount of transactions, this amount of product. And this is where most farmers are just going to burn out. They're not able to grow this amount of stuff. It's hard to harvest this much and have this much at your booth, because don't forget, if you're going to do 67 transactions at a lower price, a bag of salad mix you sell for $5 or you sell for $10 has the same growing cost, the same harvest cost, the same seed cost. So trying to get that value higher on your average product. If we look at $25 transaction, you need 40. A typical basket could be 2 pounds of salad mix. That's $22, $11 a pound, and some herbs. Not that crazy for a lot of consumers to hit that. And $11 a pound salad mix, I think, is pretty much par for course, whether you're in a Costco, an organic grocery store, at the farmer's market. On the screen, there's some other example transactions. I think this can be achievable, and this is how a lot of farms doing high volume sales at farmers markets, high dollar volume sales at farmers markets, are doing this. If you said, look, Diego, I'm a smaller market, I can't get the high dollar transactions. Okay, fine. But realize you're now moving volume. You're servicing more customers, which means you have to have more product on the shelf behind you, which means you're harvesting more, you're incurring more harvesting costs, there's more wash pack, there's more time in bagging. Here's what those numbers could look like. If everybody bought 5 items to hit the average value, it's 67 customers, you need to have 335 items on hand. At 25, you're at 200. So you're significantly higher. Again, that's more stuff to bring, more room in the car, more stuff to keep cold, more stuff to keep in good condition, more stuff to display nicely, more stuff to harvest, wash pack. It's just a different game. And no one has talked about this. I've never read it in any market farming books. I've never heard anybody talk about this. So it's, I think, an interesting way to think about your market and your average sales volume. Because at that lower ticket price, you just need to bring more stuff. And that means more stuff to grow, prep, pack, all that. The 80-20 rule. Grow money crops, grow crops that sell, grow crops that have high average prices. These are your profitable 5, I think, for most farmers. Salad mix, $11 a pound retail pricing, high turnover. You can position it as a premium versus distributors versus grocery stores. Most people, this is the bread and butter of their farmer's market booth. Head lettuce, quick growing crop, sell them for $5 each. Everyone knows what it is. Everyone buys it. Cherry tomatoes, $5 to $6 a pint, or especially early in the season. It's an impulse buy type thing. Easy way to add $5 onto your transaction. Herbs, low cost, typically easy to grow, typically can be grown in margins around the farm. Sell bunches for $3-4. Easy way to add some order value. And carrots, big seller for a lot of farms. Not the easiest thing to grow or master, but once you master them in your particular location, you can become the carrot person. Most people have had bad carrots all their lives. When they taste an amazingly fresh carrot, their minds are blown. And when you get them with those good tasting carrots, you're at $5 a bunch. Consistent seller, you can store it. People recognize it. People eat it raw. On the flip side, we want to look at things to avoid. Rainbow Swiss chard, people don't really know what it is. If we're being honest, most people don't like it. There's all sorts of hobby crops that people grow. They're just fun to grow, tomatillos and that type of thing, amaranth. Like, no one wants that stuff. So over diversifying can become a profit killer. And that includes you getting sucked into seed catalogs, getting sucked into what other growers are growing on Instagram. That isn't to say don't experiment, but I wouldn't be experimenting with your livelihood until you are on stable footing with significant savings in the bank. Early on, test the crops that you know have a great chance of success and forget all of the exotic crap that might not work and it's just wasting your time. If you want to do this for a living, get a recipe that works for you and your location and then tinker around the fringes. Too many people want to tinker early on and it messes everything up. Part 3, customer psychology. Look, people aren't buying vegetables for the most part when they come to you. They're buying connection, they're buying a healthier lifestyle, they're buying premium food for their kids. You're not just necessarily selling them a product. You're selling them something that fits into their vision of the world. Ultimately, what makes somebody buy is how do you make your product fit into their story? They're the hero of their story, and they want your product to help them be that hero. Example, I just want to live healthier. I'm battling a lot of sickness. I've been doing a ton of juicing. I can buy your organic produce and work it into my juices, and I get healthy. Realize people will pay for things that they really value, but you have to find a market base that values it. You're not going to go in selling to the lower middle class or maybe even the middle class here. You're like higher middle class, higher premium. Sell to people that have money. That's what you want at the end of the day. You don't want people who are your customers deciding, can I afford this or can I not? You want the people who just come up to the booth and are like, this is the best stuff I can find at the market. I'll buy it. I really don't care what the price is. Those are the customers you want to cultivate. Look for markets and locations like that. They're around almost every big city in the US. And the reality is, it's that demographic that's supporting small scale farms. The other people, they're either not at farmers markets or they're shopping at places like Walmart. There's a reason why people go to Starbucks or even why people diss Starbucks to go to local boutique coffee houses and pay $6, $7, $8 for a pour over. They want premium products. They want an experience. When you buy an $8 pour over of a single origin coffee that's made for you on the spot, you're not just going there for a caffeine hit. You're going to get a drink that you can sip and enjoy. It becomes an experience. You want to try and present your vegetables that way. So somebody's getting that and they're making amazing meals with it. They're making juices with that. Maybe they're just eating it raw right as you sell it to them. That's where you want to go. That's how you get a higher premium price. That's what the people doing less transactions, but at a higher dollar value transaction are doing versus somebody who's just selling bulk. Yeah, it's great to sell somebody 50 pounds of tomatoes if they just want to make salsa or tomato sauce, but you're probably better at the end of the day selling one person a pint for $6 that they're just going to eat raw. So think about these things. When you are starting a farm, if you have a current farmer's market, evaluate it. What is your average transaction value? Do you even know? And if you don't know, why not? How can you try and get it up? It might be as simple as asking things like, hey, would you like to try some of this? Or you bought this, hey, we can add this in for X dollars more. And try and bump those dollar value per transactions up to get your average sales higher over the course of a day, which means you need less people to support your market booth. A lot here. I hope this video resonated. I hope you can use some of this to make a change in your farm. If you have a question, if you have comments, if you want me to go more into this exact subject matter, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching. And until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.